Good morning. Good morning. How we doing out there? Who's got some love for us this morning? Who's got something good going? Can anybody appreciate that I've now figured out how to time the end of the song with the start of the show? Did anybody catch that? Like a show producer over here. That feels good. That is what I'm feeling good about today. All
I'm
right.
still working on my first cup of coffee.
Yeah. Did we at least notice that I made that happen? Sometimes I'm ready to start the show at 8:32. I give you guys a couple of minutes because I know we're agents on this call, and the song could have a minute left in it. It could have been done. It's rolling into the next song. But I have actually figured out a way to time this whole thing and get it to end so we can start right on time. So I'm excited about that. And it's Finance Friday. So we got that going. And make sure you guys prepare yourselves over the weekend because we are going to be streaming live next week. That's what I'm going to be working on over the weekend. This stream, you'll be able to join here on Google Meet, and we may switch this over to a Zoom call, but we're going to stream it to LinkedIn, to Facebook Live, and to YouTube Live. And we're going to try and grow this bad boy. So tell your friends. You're going to be famous soon. Yeah, but what's going good? Eric, I saw you joined us. What do you got on the finance side of things? Did we see a tick down on rates? I thought we saw finally it's been ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. Did we see a tick down?
We definitely did. We seen the bond drop down quite a bit Monday, Tuesday. It's been ticking slightly back up towards the end of the week here, but there's always some fluctuation day to day. Overall, we're in a better place, which hopefully that trend continues because that's what we all want.
Eric, you got anything weird that came up this week on a deal or something that agents should be aware of?
So I'll share this one. It's not too crazy, but it's something that can come up. I have a personal friend of mine, a good kid, buying his first house, about 30 years old, and unbeknownst to him, he had a judgment from an old apartment from probably 6 or 7 years ago, had no clue about it. Didn't even realize that, I guess they tried to contact him because he didn't leave the apartment in perfect condition. They filed a complaint with the court. They want a judgment. It just kind of sits out there and never land because about 10 years ago, they changed their reporting laws on credit. They can no longer put judgments on your credit report. So now what happens is people don't know about them. They forget about them. And here we are in the middle of our loan process. You know, he found his house. He's all happy. We pulled what's called a LexisNexis report, and it finds everything possible. And unfortunately, the judgment popped up. Luckily, it's not a huge amount of money. He is trying to negotiate it down because obviously it's an older debt. You know, it'll get taken care of, but it's just something that pops up. Obviously, when it first came up, he was very upset, you know, very concerned that it was going to ruin his ability to buy the house. And you just, you know, had to kind of calm him down, listen, digest it, relax, take 24 hours. We'll figure out a way to work through this. Don't worry. And the next day, he was completely fine once he wrapped his head around it. He's like, I'll just go pay it. And I'm like, slow down. You don't have to just go pay it. Let's call him up. Let's negotiate it. You can probably get it for 50 cents on the dollar, things like that. But things pop up. Sometimes, you know, we just got to calm the client down a little bit, keep them in their lane and let them digest it. And then cool heads always prevail usually.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, kind of the story that I always tell my clients when they are maybe giving me some pushback with going and getting pre-approved early is a doc that I had. I was like, dude, whatever, he made a year, and he's like, I'm fine. Like, I don't need to go get pre-approved, and went to go get the pre-approval, and he still had student loans that he had paid off. Somehow they didn't get removed from his credit report, and it freaking took us forever. They lost the dream home that they wanted to offer on. And there's got to be a million little stories like this of just stuff that just kind of shows up. Maybe it shouldn't even be showing up. That if you wait, now all of a sudden you're in the process and it takes weeks or months to get rid of this stuff. So I don't know if you've got any other stories like that you've seen that can just, a little bit more ammunition for these guys. Thanks, Chris. I love that story. That these guys can use as ammunition when somebody's giving them a little bit of pushback on, why do I need to get pre-approved now? I'm good.
So I think that that's definitely a good piece of ammunition in your belt. And a lot of times maybe we don't use it as much as we should because we feel like, oh, I can't tell someone else's story. I can't tell their private information. If you're not given their name, who they are, it's just a hypothetical story per se. It's not like you're sharing somebody else's dirty laundry. And I think that a lot of times, it is our job to look out for our client's best interest. And that's what you're doing. You're looking out for their best interest, whether it be getting them pre-approved ahead of time, whether it be, oh, they got pre-approved by Bank of America and your offers aren't getting accepted because, let's be honest, you've been on the, most of us have at some point been on the listing side and we've seen the pre-approval come over. And if they're offering 400 and it says Bank of America and the next one says 400 and it says Sempa, what are you going to say to your seller? Straight to their face. Which one should they take? We all know that we're going to be biased. So you can share those stories with your buyer too. Hey, whether you've been on the listing side or not, you could say, hey, my team leaders told me this story. If you haven't been there yet, tell them the horror stories. Let them know the horror stories. And it's not that you're trying to scare them. It's not that you're trying to push them to do something. You're actually looking out for their best interest.
Yeah, that's a good. Adam, your hand is up. You're muted, buddy.
Eric, I'm just curious, is the LexisNexis something that you can, like a credit report, you purchase or scan on your own so you can try to avoid that stuff? Or is that just like a lender, background type of thing?
It's something that we have to pay for. So there's no way to go get it for free and do it ahead of time because it looks at everything. It's going to check search the entire 50 states if they've ever had ownership in another property. Every mortgage nowadays that's gotten recorded probably over the last, 15 years of the technology world has what's called a MERS number. It's all tracked. So we're going to be able to see if they've ever had a mortgage. People say, oh, no, I'm a first-time home buyer. No, this just came up. You co-signed for somebody. We got to look at that. Every address that populates against them, whether it was, oh, I was there for college. But they're still getting mail there because there's junk mail going there. That's why you'll hear clients, you'll hear the stories. Oh man, they're asking me all these stupid questions. That's why we're asking the stupid questions, because they popped up somewhere and it's like, hey, you're attached to this other address in Pennsylvania. Why is that?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the other thing you said. I buy and sell a lot of properties, and a lot of times the final utility bill won't make it to me for some reason. And I had one go to collections, and it was like $600, and they never contacted me because they didn't change the address to my office address. It was to the flip property. But long story short, I wanted to highlight that someone said, hey, you didn't actually have to pay that. You could have negotiated it down. So I probably would have paid it because I owed it. That's just my personality. But if it's a larger number and someone's trying to get out of something, apparently once it goes to collections, it's an opportunity to negotiate your full debt.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen, and a lot of times it comes down to the age of the item. The longer it's been outstanding, the less they're willing to take, because a lot of the companies, they've written it off at some point. They've written it off their balance sheet and they expect to get zero. So let's say you owe $1,000. They might take $250 because it's been 10 years.
Right. Just one more question, Steve. I just happen to be logging into my local credit union, and right on the homepage, it says introducing Trim, a 30-year mortgage with your ability to essentially change or float the rate one time within the first 5 years. I didn't know if you had heard. I mean, that sounds almost too good to be true. Maybe there's some fees. Have you heard of something like that, or does that make sense?
It's not something that we offer, so that would have to be like the only places that are going to offer that is going to be a local bank or credit union, because they're going to have to keep that new. They're not going to be able to endorse it over to Fannie or Freddie. They're not going to be able to sell it on the secondary market, because nobody's going to want to buy that piece of collateral and not know what their return on investment is later at a later date. So that credit union is going to be taking that payment every single month. And literally all they're doing is, oh, we'll let you float it down. It's the same as offering a free refinance, essentially.
Right. Yeah. So it's probably only eight AAA plus borrowers like a credit union typically is anyway. So most people probably won't qualify for it.
Yeah, I'm sure if you look down, there's probably, you know, the little footnotes, and or you got to expand this thing, and then there's a whole paragraph that's in, you know, size 2 that you can't even read without your glasses.
Yep. Cool.
Thanks on that, Chris. I see your hand up. What do you got?
So I just saw a news release, and I admit that I did not read it. I just saw a graphic of it that says that President Trump is demanding interest rates be lowered. Can he even do that? Is that even possible?
So obviously the Federal Reserve controls the main interest rate. Obviously he's in a very high position of power. He's very influential. I'm sure he can make people's lives less comfortable. So he's probably just saying that, and that will put pressure on, you know, the Federal Reserve to say, okay, you know, we said we were going to hold steady. They'll, you know, they could reduce them at the next meeting, and he could be using his power to be influential over that next vote.
But it's not just something he can mandate and it has to happen.
No, the Federal Reserve ultimately controls the benchmark interest rate. But like I said, I'm sure he can be very influential. And a lot of times, even just the bond market can be influential over the actual mortgage rate, you know, from the job market and things like that. A lot of things that he's doing. I mean, this morning I was watching the reopening a plant in Detroit. They're hiring 1,500 auto workers in another plant in Detroit. So you're seeing job growth in day, I don't know, 4 or 5, you know, whether you like them or you don't like them. I'm not going to, you know, pick that side of it or be political, but I'm just going off what's happening. And the job reports have a big effect on the bond market. So there could be some things that change there that could be helping us. You know, that's why the bond market's been dropping this week.
Anybody else
Thank
with anybody else with finance questions for Eric?
So Steve, I got something we're going to launch out. So I'll take a
Yep.
couple minutes just to go over it for you guys.
Sure.
And I'm gonna send this to KB and Jay, and you guys can email it out to everyone else in the organization who might not be on the call. But I wanted to get this out on the call today. So from today until the end of February, we're gonna do a little contest, try to get some activity going. Let's get the spring market sprung. It's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Let's be honest, we all drink coffee. I've already heard comments in here. I haven't had my first cup of coffee. That's why I'm being quiet. So, you know, we all live on coffee. Hopefully you guys like Dunkin', because our attitude is, you know, everyone runs on Dunkin'. It's New England. So what we're going to do is not for every lead that gets sent over, but for every lead that actually does an application. We want you guys to like be a little bit more involved with the client rather than, hey, let me give you an intro. Hey guys, you really got to do this application. We really want to get them to that next step, because we're seeing about 28% of the leads that come over are actually doing the application. And I feel like if we can raise that bar, it'll raise the bar for all of us. And so for every application that we intake, we're going to send the agent a voucher to go get themselves a free coffee in the morning. From now until the end of February, what we're also going to do is every person who receives a coffee, we're going to enter you in for a raffle drawing. At the end of February, we're going to pull a $100 gift certificate to the restaurant of your choice in your area, because we know a lot of you live in different places. So we don't want to just pick a random restaurant and then you're like, oh God, that's an hour away. So once we know who the winner is, we'll contact you. and we'll find a nice local restaurant for you and send you and your loved ones out for dinner.
Appreciate that, man. I definitely feel like agents are getting back into the swing of things. If you want, maybe just put your contact information in the chat, as we've got, non-Roe team agents that are joining this call. So if anybody else that has never used Semper before wants to give them a shot, please feel free to do so. Let's just open it up general real estate. Who's got some questions, something going on a deal, something that you learned? Oh, and I'll follow up from yesterday's call. Did a little bit of research on the asking for the drink and stuff like that. This is an actual like psychological effect called the Ben Franklin effect. There's an actual name to this, and quite a bit of research done on that. So I think you're going to see a couple of videos coming out on this topic. So pretty cool. Appreciate you guys bringing that to the table yesterday. So who's got something else? I have something going on. Anthony, what do you got, bud?
Hey, morning, everybody. So I got this mobile home over in Wareham. Got a buyer. Buyer just got approval by the park, and we're ready to go, ready to close on the 31st. My question, or I'm just a little worried about how's this transaction going to process, because there's no attorney on the seller side. And do we necessarily need a purchase and sale doc? Because mobile homes, I've heard, are just bill of sale.
Yep.
Go about your
You
way.
got it. No purchase and sale needed. Bill of sale is fine. Typically, you are going to just see an offer go back and forth. But yeah, I don't need an attorney. Don't need a purchase and sale. I don't know if anybody just has recently done one that just wants to comment, hey, this is how we've closed it out. Anybody do one recently? Martin, go ahead, bud.
I have one in Cheshire that's closing that they're using the buyer's attorney for like $200 just to get everything verified. I mean, just to, if you know, but you really don't need. There's another one I saw that they didn't do anything. It was just transacted through like, let's say Roe v. Holmes, who I was working with at the time.
And then
I mean,
now
think of it, Anthony, like a sale of a car, right?
oh yeah,
It's going to be the same process. So, you don't have a
Easy
purchase and
peasy.
sale for that. You don't need attorneys for that. You just bill a sale and we move on.
So how should I handle the actual the money? Should the seller get the money, certified bank check, or does it need to go into like the real escrow?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the money goes, I think the buyer can just get certified funds that they're going to give over to that seller. And then as far as who's paying who, that all depends on how you guys structure the deal. If the seller is paying the listing agent, the buyer is paying the buyer's agent, then those things could just happen separately. Okay, but again, money can never go directly to an agent. It's always got to go to your broker. So whatever brokerage you are working at, the funds have got to be made out in the name of that broker.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. And we do have a nice guide, Anthony, on transactions involving mobile homes. Just take a quick peek at that. Make sure that you've dotted your I's, crossed your T's. There's a bunch of little things. It couldn't hurt to take a look at the doc. Who else has got something? If we want to continue on with the inspection theme, the next inspection that I had jotted down for us to chat about was a termite and wood destroying insect. Anybody had something come up with regards to this type of inspection recently that you'd like to just kind of share with the group? Anybody have something weird? I had jotted down a few different things. Jeff.
Hey, how you doing all? Good morning. Yeah, we had this was an Illinois story. when we had a client that came through and was doing a list of inspections beyond the general inspection, and they had asked for a termite inspection, a pest inspection. They came through, and the house, you know, as it may be sometimes when you go through these, unassuming as to any problems. And again, I say that as a layman when it comes to these inspections. The house had a crawl space. Again, this is in Illinois, so we don't have places with basements. We do have placements with basements as well, but this one just had a crawl space. So the inspector had to get down there, comes back up, and he's just, you know, covered in cobwebs and dirt, and he's been crawling around for a while. He comes back, shows us a video, says, "You got active termites here." This was the first time I had seen active termites in a home in my real estate career, and he said it was the worst he had ever seen. 3 walls of this base of the home, that was as far as he could get to, had active termites. He showed us the video. It looked like a network of these things just going around. Of course, the lady walked away from the house, but it was to this day, the guy says he uses that as his promotional video for his termite inspection company. That's how bad it was. So the point of it is, you never know from a layman terms, you never know what you're getting into. And so I always encourage people, said, for a couple $100 to do an inspection, it's worth your peace of mind, you know, if you want to do them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that comes to mind when you tell that story for me is pre-inspection for the sellers, right?
Yep.
Especially in the market that we're entering right now, you had a ready, willing, and able buyer that just backed out. I can almost guarantee you the next buyer is not paying the same price, right? If the seller had done a pre-listing inspection, right, both termite and regular, I really think these are worth the money for a seller. It's cheap money, you know. I don't know, you can get the whole thing done for probably somewhere between $500 and $1,000. Just have an inspector run through your house before you list it. See what you got, make some repairs, disclose what you didn't fix. You know, I've always equated this to a certified pre-owned car. You're gonna pay more for a certified pre-owned than just a pre-owned car. There is just some sort of I don't know, comfort level that this thing has had whatever they'll tell you, 21-point inspection. Well, hey, look, we did a home inspection on this. These are the things that came up. These are the things that we fixed. Here you go. There's a comfort level now with that buyer. But I promise you, for whatever it would have cost that seller to do the inspections up front, they're going to lose a lot more money now on that deal. So the more often that we can push the pre-home inspection on a seller, tell that story. Well, why would I want to do that? The buyer is going to pay for a home inspection. Here's why you want to do this. Right? Because if you don't do this and something like this happens, a buyer is going to get scared. If that termite stuff had been taken care of, that buyer is not scared away and they buy that house. Right? So there's a lot of power, but you got to tell the story of why. Why would I spend $700 when the buyer is going to spend that money? Anybody want to just kind of chat on this? Have you used this? Are you pushing at a listing presentation that you might want to think about doing this, right? They don't have to. Again, when we're going into these listing presentations, we don't want to force anything on somebody. You don't have to stage your house. You don't have to clean it out. You don't have to paint. You don't have to clean up the yard. But if you do these things, you know, you don't have to do the pre-home inspection. But I think, you know, we're increasing our chances of closing on time and maximizing the dollars for cheap money up front. So if you're going into listing presentations and you're not offering these things, I think you're making a mistake. Let them choose what they want to do. What are we thinking? What is that story reminding you of? Has anybody actually used pre-home inspection? Had their seller do one? Lauren.
Yeah, so probably 4 or 5 years ago when we had initially rolled out we called it like the certified home, right? Something to that effect, where the property came with the home inspection done. Additionally, you know, a home warranty that we were offering with the property. So we had that full inspection report, whether or not the the sellers even chose to actually do any of that. That information was available for them. It then, when provided to the buyers was, hey, here's everything that we know is going on with the house. Now all of this that's going on with the house before you even put your offer in. So base your offer on what you know, right? And so we knew at that time that the person came in, they reviewed that. They were okay. It was all, minor things. I think we ended up fixing or updating like a heating system, having it serviced, and then provided that 1-year warranty because they were saying it was older, but it was functional. And so when the buyer came in and they then at inspection time tried again asking for something because they did do their own inspection, we were like, hey, that was disclosed. We said we weren't really going to address anything that we did disclose to you. In the end, they were okay with that. They were like, yeah, you're right. Our agent did say that. We'll take this warranty. We'll see if that'll cover anything if it does come up. So it did work out at that time.
I mean, I think that's one of the bigger things that you bring up that this eliminates is just back them out for inspection purposes, right? Yeah, you can still do your inspection, but man, we've disclosed all of this stuff to you, right? The number we're agreeing on is based on this home inspection. This is what we got going on. The chances of there being something else are pretty slim. How about anybody on the buy side of one of these, and how did it make your buyer feel? How about just the fact that you stand out as a listing agent when you say, hey, this is what we're certifying this. Here's a home inspection. We're being upfront with you. To me, it's one of these things that really easily can separate, especially as we're coming into a slower market. Anybody been on the buy side where a home inspection was already done? Shasta, anything worth chatting about, or how did it make your buyers feel?
Yeah, it gave them a little peace of mind, but I'll be honest with you, the list agent advertised it like it was a huge selling point and, we're happy to send it over and all this great stuff. We got to looking at it and everything seemed to check out. And the roof on the home, when we did the showing, it looks like there was a partial replacement happening or like a repair. And I asked her about it and she's like, oh yeah, that was from Hurricane Milton, which just happened this past year. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, totally fine. We just wanted to confirm everything was being fixed. And she said, absolutely. All of the items in the inspection report were being addressed. So, we got to looking a little deeper and I noticed that they didn't mention the roof on that inspection report, or the damage, like the repairs seemed like they were a lot more extensive than the small things that were pointed out on the inspection. I'm like, wait a minute, why isn't this showing up anywhere? So I go back to the inspection report and look, and in the very top, on very, very tiny letters, it shows the date, which was actually March of last year that they did the inspection. And this home is still for sale. This was just this past week that we did this. So my buyer said, just due to the issues with the roof alone, the whole neighborhood, I mean, everybody had tarped roofs. He said it seems like the area is a little bit too risky now that we knew what it's going to look like post Category 5 hurricane. So it was, if I do talk to my sellers about doing those home inspections, but I feel like obviously there is a point in time where they stop being as reliable. It's nice to have the information and just to kind of see, but obviously once so much time passes, it doesn't really benefit you as much as what you'd hope. So I still advise my buyers to, make sure that they're doing their own in addition to that if it is an older one.
Yeah, definitely got to look at those dates. And I think we should always on the buy side still be advising our people to do one, but we're going in with a little bit more confidence, Margaretta.
Good morning. So I'm curious on how you guys feel about doing also appraisal, even though it's appraisal, because financial aspect of things, especially with overbidding and then gaps, do you guys ever try doing an appraisal before selling the house?
I mean, my personal take on this one, Margaretta, is only if you and the client cannot come to an agreement on the price, right? Or we've got a scenario where we've got two parties that are not on the same page. Maybe there's a divorce going on, getting an appraisal up front to kind of settle on a price. But to me, if you had the appraisal, I don't know that it's going to convince the buyer of what the home is worth, right? I don't think it's gonna have the same effect as a pre-home inspection saying, hey, here's what we know is wrong with the house. Here's the fixes that we made. Here's still what's wrong with it. You know, you providing an appraisal to a potential buyer, I don't know how much value that is, but would love to hear from the group. Jeff?
Yeah, we, you know, the times that we generally will ask a buyer or seller to consider an appraisal is on extremely unique properties, ones that may not necessarily fit the neighborhood. And in fact, one specific example set out these folks had really kind of overbuilt in the neighborhood and had a huge addition to the back of the house. And so you couldn't, in effect, comp it out because of all the additional square footage and room that they had added onto it. So we suggested an appraisal. And to your point, one of the challenges with that is it doesn't mean that the next buyer, while they may say, hey, this is great because I can do this, they may not still pay that price just because it appraised, because it's a, you know, you paid for an appraisal. And that was the challenge that the lady ran into. And we had to advise her that, said, it's great that you did this, but it's really overbuilt for the neighborhood. So you may not get this price just because you got an appraisal. Doesn't guarantee that that's the price you're going to get. We did sell it, but it went below the appraisal price when it sold.
Yeah,
But
I just feel like,
properties.
especially in that scenario, if you had 3 appraisers go out, they're coming up with 3 different numbers, and they could be off by 10%. So that's the other fear, you know. And I'm not saying that can't happen with a home inspection, right? You could have one inspector go out there and find, you know, 5 things wrong, and somebody else go out and find 10 things wrong. Like, that's definitely the case. I just think the subjectivity of these appraisals is it can be so skewed. So I think it can be difficult, Margareta. But there's a time and a place for it, for sure.
And I agree, because kind of my thoughts about that is because I am dealing with this property on the golf course, and I'm having a little bit, you know, hard time finding comps because there's not houses that sold there. So I have to go outside, obviously. But my dilemma with this whole thing, as I'm thinking it through, is, you know, it's interesting how once you have a buyer with certain price point that you are technically, you know, having that house on the market for, that signals that that house is worth that on this market. And technically, that's kind of what an appraisal ends up falling into. So, you know, it's hard to say that the appraisal pre-sell or pre-concrete buyer availability, you know, with an offer will be the same. And that's why I struggle with that. So thank you for all that input. That was very helpful.
You got it. Jeff, did you have something to add?
Hi, it's Linda. And I'd just like to say this. If you are going to use an appraiser before going on the market, please let the appraiser know that you're trying to get a market value through, like, have him go in or her go in with the eyes or the mindset that this is as if you were giving this appraisal to a mortgage lender. Because I find that if a seller or is just a homeowner wants an appraisal, they tend to get a higher number than if it's with the appraiser having in mind it's for purposes of selling the home. It's just it's a different perspective, and they go higher if it's just like a private party wanting an appraisal.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I'm saying that clearly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, in theory, a licensed appraiser should not be doing that.
Agreed.
But I think
in theory, but in
actuality,
that's definitely what I have encountered.
Experienced, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they want to please the homeowner or something. I don't know. I don't know the mind, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. All right, guys, we are up against the hour. Let's do a quick screen share here and bring you guys the trainings that are available for today. Unicorn style video content. So I'm assuming how to create unique videos. The real estate mastery course, EDDM. Is that the, that's the Every Door Direct. Yeah. Every Door Direct mail program. And that is, that's Sarah Tefano. She is right here in Connecticut teaching that one. The Thriving Buyer Agent will be the final course today at 6 o'clock our time. So I'm sure you guys will be tuning in on a Friday night for that one. So appreciate you guys. This was awesome. I am really looking forward to next week. We're going to get this pumped out over some live streams. So invite somebody. I would really appreciate it. It's all I ask of this call is that would be the fee that you just tell somebody else. Get a colleague. Let's grow this call. The more, the merrier. The experience shares. It all just gets better with growth. So enjoy your weekends, and we will do this again on Monday. Take care.
Have a great week, Benno. Thanks, Steve.
Bye,
See you
guys.
guys.